Hi folks, Charlie Shelton with Disneyland News Today, back once again to try some tasty treats. I'm over here at Disney California Adventure today because the Pacific Wharf Café has something new for me. This is the Cajun Pan Roast Soup. So it is shrimp in a Creole spiced tomato soup, and served in a bread bowl with rice. So I am looking forward to this. I really enjoy the gumbo over at Disneyland, and this is kind of a cousin of the gumbo. A pan roast has nothing to do with a roast like we would think of it, like a roast beef. This is just a bunch of things, kind of whatever's in the kitchen, thrown together and roasted up in a pan with lots of spices and vegetables and stewed all together. It's almost like a Creole version of an Irish stew. Just everything thrown in a pot and roasted all up. So this one is with shrimp, and of course it's served with rice, and then also we have starches from the rice and from being served in an entire bread bowl. So I am looking forward to it. I'm going to dive right in. Ooh. Oh, that's really good. It's kind of spicier than I would expect. We've had a lot of foods come out here in the last week or two at Disneyland, and I've been surprised at the spice level, because I'm used to when they say, spicier, when you expect a dish to be spicy, and it's like spicy, it's spiced in flavor, but in order to make it appealing to the masses, they kind of tone down the spice level. This one has more spice than I would imagine. For Disneyland, I enjoy spice, and so it's very pleasant to me, and it's nice to have that. I'm really glad to see that they're branching out with a little bit of this spice. But it's just kind of surprising, because the vast majority of the food that you would expect is not spicy. And so something like this, where it's not explicitly said on the menu, it does have a little kick to it. But, it's very enjoyable. And it has cilantro on the top, because it's California. So there's cilantro on everything. I'm going to get rid of that. I am not a cilantro fan, and I know that's not allowed to say in California, but that just does not mesh well with this. So that shrimp is stewed down perfectly. It's very soft. It almost falls apart in your mouth. So there is that kick of heat, but it is spiced. It's not super spicy, like hot spicy, but it is very spiced. There's a lot of flavors going on in here. It's good. The tomato does come through most prevalently. And I'm also getting kind of like, not quite Old Bay, but like a blackened seasoning, where it's kind of hard to pin down. Like, I'm sure there's paprika and cumin or whatever else is in there. But it all hangs together. It's hard to pick anything individually out. Nothing is raising its head for me to really get my hands on it, taste-wise. It's very well balanced and very even. I would say, if you're familiar with the Disneyland gumbo served over across the way at the Royal Street Veranda, it's very similar to that, but it's not quite so thick. This is more of a soup. This is more of a broth with things in it, as opposed to the gumbo is much thicker and goopier. But also, just sitting here, the few bites that I've taken, it's almost gone already. There's not a lot here, and that's kind of what happens a lot of times with the bread bowls is, they cut out this much. So there's this much soup. That's what you get. And then half of that is rice. So there's not a whole lot, and I want to keep sampling it because it's so complex and because there's so many things going on. I want to keep going after it and trying to isolate what the flavors are. But I'm running low on soup already, so that heat is starting to catch up to me. Again, it's enjoyable, but it is starting to catch up, and I do need something to cool me off a little bit. So this is a good alternative to the gumbo. If you're already over here, you're not going to go back over to Disneyland, this is a good alternative to the gumbo. It's very similar in its flavor profile. It has fewer, vegetable chunks, whereas the other one has, the gumbo has more like okra and celery and things, mixed throughout. This is pretty much just shrimp, and then the rice gives it some body, and it does come together well, but it is a one-note song. It is all very, that tomato, that Creole spice just runs through and overpowers everything. So that Creole spice itself is a complex flavor, but there's no real differentiation within parts of the soup. You're not getting any, bright, fresh flavors or anything like that. It's stewed all the way through the shrimp. It's soaked into the bread. It takes over the rice. Like it is just one flavor all the way through. And the more I eat it, the more the heat ramps up, the harder it is to discern within that singular Cajun spice flavor, the harder it is to discern exactly what's happening and pinpoint anything. This is, I initially was struck by it because the flavor was so strong and there was so much going on. But now that I'm coming to the end of it already, I am a little let down, to be honest. I wanted, a little bit more from the soup, like both in volume and in changing up the flavor profile, changing up the textures. Even it does feel kind of monotonous. The one flavor that's there is a good flavor, and it's very complex, and the heat as it builds does make it difficult to chase that flavor any further. But it just kind of, that initial burst of, hey, that's good, and then it never really crescendos beyond that. So my initial reaction being, wow, that's great, and it just kind of peters out. So you win some, you lose some. They can't all be fantastic winners, and for what it is, it's not bad. There's a lot of different options here, and if you're in the mood for a Cajun pan roast or gumbo style flavor, this is going to hit the spot because it's one good flavor. But there are other options here that are a little more complex and have a little more going on, not just at DCA, but at Pacific Wharf Bakery specifically. So it's not terrible, but it's also could be better. Anyway, thank you so much for joining us. If you enjoyed the video, please let us know in the comments down below. We'll see you next time.